It's just been revoked.
Well, hello fellow miscreants, dissidents, and ne'er-do-wells. Primary Arms has introduced a whole mess of new micro Prism sights over the last few months, and we got our sticky little mitts on all of them. They've made some radical changes to their original compact Prism design and shrunk it quite a lot, as well as added a few new models. We'll focus on the 1X Cyclops, 1X Gemini, 3X Raptor, and 3X Magnifier, but as we go along, if your desire to know more intensifies, and you think some of them deserve a little more love in their own video, comment below and we'll see about making a more detailed video on a couple of these optics. But first, let's pay the bills.
Thanks to our sponsor Durkin Tactical, your AR-15 superstore. You can find out more at durkintactical.com.
Right, let's do it.
Now I want to start with one that is my personal favorite and actually mounted on my home defense stick right now. The SLX 1X Cyclops Gen 2 is hands down my favorite non-magnified sight at this moment. I reviewed both the original model and the improved version of the Gen 1, and they are indeed good sights. Tough as nails too. But the second generation is lighter, much more compact, looks cooler, and it also adds a few small changes which add up to make a big difference. The first change is the horseshoe is much larger, making it way faster. It's also substantially brighter than the first model. But the real game changer for me is the auto live feature. The battery will already last for over 3 years of constant use on the medium setting, but brighter settings obviously won't run nearly as long, so the sight shuts itself off after a few minutes without movement, then automatically turns on as soon as you pick it up, like a 47-year-old barfly at closing time. That means you can set it and forget it, which is ideal for a home defense rifle. The reticle in the Cyclops is etched. That means the reticle is physically part of the glass, and that means it's visible whether or not it's illuminated. So if the battery dies or the Norks set off an EMP, you'll still be able to get to your dino nuggies and chalky milk after civilization collapses. But there's more to it than just belt and suspenders redundancy. Another reason it's useful to have a reticle that's visible whether or not it's illuminated is something I honestly never really hear people talking about. If you adjust the brightness of a reflex or holographic sight so that it is visible outdoors in bright sunlight, it'll probably be too bright to clearly identify targets in dim ambient conditions or in the dark while using a weapon-mounted light. On the other hand, if you set it so you can clearly identify the target in low light, the reticle will be completely invisible in daylight. But etched reticles don't need to be illuminated to be visible, so in practice, you can leave the brightness at a level which is suitable for low light shooting, and if you have to use it in daylight in a hurry, the reticle is still plainly visible. Sure, you can turn it up, and these Gen 2 micro prisms really are daylight bright, but the point is, you don't have to. I think the ability to just pick up the sight and make a shot without turning it on or mucking about adjusting brightness is extremely useful, especially within the context of home defense. Another benefit of etched reticles, which does get a lot of attention, is how they are crisp and clear for people with astigmatism, whereas reflex and holographic sights can appear fuzzy, spiky, or oblong. At the same time, the center chevron is simultaneously faster and also more precise than dot reticles. The classic dilemma with all dot sights is larger dots are faster to pick up, but less precise. The tip of a chevron is almost infinitely tiny, allowing for very precise shooting, but the chevron itself is large enough to pick up quickly, and that enormous horseshoe around it is very bold. Out to about 15 yards or so, you can just frame a target inside the horseshoe without even really looking at the chevron. As you get farther down range, the precision afforded by the chevron really pays off. And that's another place these etched reticles really shine. When you pair a magnifier with a red dot, the dot is magnified along with the target. That may help target identification, but it doesn't really help precision very much. But magnifying the chevron still gets you a nice pointy tip to focus on. The Cyclops also has ranging marks to estimate distance based on the width of a man's shoulders or his height, but because it is a 1X sight designed for rifle calibers, it doesn't have much in the way of a bullet drop compensator. The idea is you just have to know your holdover. Primary Arms does list the ranges for the inside corner of the chevron and the base of the chevron, just in case you wish to use the sight with a magnifier, but the drop for rifle cartridges is so small that it would be impractical to include holdovers in a non-magnified sight. But pistol cartridges do have significant drop at relatively close range, enough to warrant holdovers even in a non-magnified sight, which is where the Gemini comes in. It has all the same features as the Gen 2 Cyclops, but with 2 holdover dots for use with 9mm at 150 and 200 yards, if the tip of the chevron is zeroed for 50 yards. It also turns out the trajectory for 9mm and the centimeter are more or less identical depending on bullet weight and velocity, so I mounted this one on my TNW Arrow survival pistol in best millimeter, and maybe I'll get a Javelina with it if I get drawn next year. In case you were wondering, these dots should also correspond to the same distances with subsonic 3 hundo if you zero at 100 yards. No matter what weirdo caliber you happen to be using, those dots will line up with the trajectory at some distance, and if you'd like an easy way to calculate what that distance would be for a given load, check out the mobile app Strelok on Android and iThings. It does all sorts of fun math stuff, can calculate lots of environmental factors using your phone's sensors, and even integrates with Kestrel weather meters over Bluetooth. You just select the reticle you're using and input relevant factors like caliber, bullet weight, velocity, and ballistic coefficient. Then it tells you what range would correspond to specific points inside the reticle. There's a free version that gives you a pretty good idea of what it's capable of, but you'll need the paid version to get all the really cool stuff. I also got my mitts on the 3-power ACSS Raptor, which has the same feature set and general form factor as the other micro prisms, but is ever so slightly larger and has 3 times magnification, as well as the Raptor reticle, which is the same one which is used in the Primary Arms 1 to 8 power first focal plane LPVO. It has holds in 100-yard increments out to 600 yards, windage holds for 5 and 10 mile per hour crosswinds, and the horizontal stadia lines can also be used to approximate range based on the width of an average adult male's shoulders. This reticle packs a lot of useful features in it without becoming overly busy, and the whole thing is in a package which compares favorably with ACOGs. And finally, Primary Arms also released a 3-power micro prism magnifier with built-in ranging scale, which they have dubbed the Pegasus. It's almost exactly the same size as the 3X Raptor and would pair nicely with any of the other micro prisms, or for that matter, it would be a solid match for reflex or holographic sights, especially if they have a BDC reticle. The Pegasus reticle ranges with shoulder width, full height, or mils. Matching up the Pegasus with the Gemini gives me a bit more range for my best millimeter blaster, and Primary Arms even has a new push-button flip-to-side mount for their magnifier. Now, to be perfectly honest, magnifiers just aren't my bag, baby.
You know what this is? This sort of thing ain't my bag, baby.
One book, Swedish-made penis enlarger pumps and me. This sort of thing is my bag, baby.
I'm more of an LPVO kind of guy, but there are some solid arguments for magnifiers, and the Pegasus is pretty impressive. Now, I don't think it would be completely unreasonable to ask as much as $325 for it.
I would not pay $325 for a winged Pegasus.
Thankfully, the MSRP on the Pegasus is only $170. The Gen 2 Cyclops retails for $270, and the 3X Raptor is expected to be about $300. The new flip-to-side magnifier mounts are $60. Now, as always, I can't tell you what is going to fit your needs the best. Only you can make that decision. Hopefully, though, I've given you enough to think about so that you can make an informed choice. If I got something wrong, or if I missed something, please be sure to leave a comment down below, and I will do my ever-loving best to answer any questions. Remember, YouTube is an interactive experience, and your comments tell Al Gore's rhythm section that you are interested in seeing content like this, even if I'm not your favorite person. If you want to help us keep bringing you banger content, please support the folks who support us. We literally couldn't make these videos without our sponsors. Thanks for watching. I love you.